Okay, we are discussing about the ecosystem, and we are taking a simple example like a pond ecosystem. Pond as an ecosystem, and we are discussing the different components that are associated with the pond ecosystem. Okay, and when you observe the pond is a shallow water body in which all the above mentioned four basic components of an ecosystem are well exhibited. Okay, that is, we can observe the productivity, decomposition, energy flow, and a nutrient cycling. All the four concepts will be observed, or components will be observed within the pond ecosystem. Okay, so the abiotic component is the water. That means here, what is the major abiotic factor in the pond ecosystem means that is water, in which all the inorganic and organic substances are dissolved, and a rich soil deposit at the bottom of the pond. Okay, at the bottom of the pond will find the rich soil deposit, because all the organisms which were died, all they will fall to the bottom of the pond, and they are undergone decomposition, and the nutrients are added, okay, to the, especially to the bottom of the pond, which are present at the bottom of the pond. That's why we say rich soil deposit. And next, the solar input. Okay, and the cycle of temperature, we say that means the amount of light. That means as the pond is a shallow water body, so the light can penetrate up to the bottom of the pond. So we'll find more solar input. And the next, the cycle of temperature. That means we'll observe the changes in the temperature of the water in the pond depending upon the environmental conditions. And next, day length. Okay, depending upon the period of a day or sun. There is a long day periods or short day periods, and other climatic conditions regulate the rate of functioning of the entire pond. So these are the some of the factors or abiotic factors which are regulating the functioning of the pond. And next, the autotrophic, okay, which will form the autotrophic organisms in the pond ecosystem means, okay, we'll find phytoplanktons and some algae, and the floating, submerged, and marginal plants found at the edges. So we'll find phytoplanktons which are freely suspended in the water, and some algae, that is a long thread-like filamentous structures, and like called as algae. And the next, floating, okay, floating plants, submerged, that means which are completely immersed in the water, and some are present on the bank of the pond. These are called marginal plants. Okay, on the bank near, okay, near, okay, on the bank very close to the water. Okay, those are called marginal plants which are found at the edges. Okay, these are the plants or organisms which will form the autotrophic or producers of that of that pond ecosystem. And next, the consumers. Okay, the consumers are represented by zooplankton, okay, freely suspended small animals. And next, the free swimming, that is the nectons. Okay, the freely swimming organisms, okay, in the water, we commonly call it, all together we call it as the nectons, like fishes and small some insects. Okay, that is so these are, okay, these are free swimming, and some are bottom dwelling forms. That means some are present at the bottom, okay, which will dwell into the okay, soil which is present at the bottom of the pond. Okay, so we'll find all these animals will form the consumers. Okay, that is, it may be the primary consumer or secondary consumer or secondary consumer, whatever it is, but they fall into this group. There is zooplanktons, free, okay, and free swimming animals, and bottom dwelling animals. All these will form the consumers. And next, okay, not only this, we'll also find decomposers. The decomposers are fungi, bacteria, and flagellates, especially abundant in the bottom of the pond. Okay, these decomposers are usually present at the bottom of the pond because they will decompose the materials or organisms which were fallen from the upper parts of the water. Okay, or from the water to the bottom of the pond. So that's why we'll find decomposers mainly at the bottom of the pond, which includes the fungi, bacteria, and some flagellates. Okay, they form the decomposers. They decompose the, okay, the organisms that are fallen from the surface. Okay, and next, this system performs all the functions of any ecosystem and of the biosphere as a whole. That means whatever the functions that are carried out by in all those functions we can observe here. Okay, all those functions we can observe here. Okay, so we can see here. Okay, okay, and next, okay, not only it is representing any ecosystem, but it is also, okay, representing the total biosphere. What is happening in the total biosphere as a whole? The same we can observe with reference to the pond. So that's why we can take the pond as a typical ecosystem, because whatever that is observed in the total earth, the same features that we observe within a single small pond. Okay, it is the representative of the total biosphere. So whatever the functions that are carried out by, okay, in the biosphere, okay, the same we are observing in any other ecosystem, and that is represented with the help of a system. Okay, there is, so we can see here, this system performs all the functions of any ecosystem and of the biosphere as a whole. That is the conversion of sorry. Okay, conversion of inorganic into organic material with the help of radiant energy of the sun by the autotrophs, consumption of autotrophs by heterotrophs, decomposition and mineralization of the dead matter to release them back for reuse by the autotrophs. These events are repeated over and over again. Okay, so that is in the ecosystem what is happening. In the ecosystem, what is happening means the radiant energy, that means the energy that is obtained from the sun is trapped, and by using that radiant energy, it is converting the inorganic and substances into organic material with the help of radiant energy. Okay, by use, okay, which is obtained from the sun by the autotrophs. And the energy that is present in the autotroph, that means from the sun, the energy is trapped by the autotrophs, and from the autotroph, whatever the energy that is trapped in the autotrophs, that is transferred to the heterotrophs. When the heterotrophs consume the autotrophs, okay, whenever these autotrophs and heterotrophs, when they complete their lifespan, they undergo death. After death, they undergo decomposition, and whatever the inorganic and organic materials that are present, okay, in the dead bodies of these plants and animals, all they are decomposed, and they are again transferred into minerals, and these minerals are added back to the soil. Okay, and these nutrients are again absorbed by the autotrophs. And these are the events that will occur as a continuous manner, repeatedly throughout. So here what is happening when you observe here, only the mineral nutrients are added. The mineral nutrients that are present in the soil are absorbed by the plant through roots, and they are used for synthesizing the organic matter from the inorganic materials by using sunlight. Okay, and this organic matter which is stored in the plants are consumed by the heterotrophs. Okay, and whenever these organisms die, again the decomposers will undergo decomposition, and they bring a mineralization, and they are added back to the soil, which are made used by the plants. So here we can see only the mineral nutrients are recycled, but never the energy is recycled. Okay, this energy is transferred from one organism to another organism, but never transferred back to the first organism from where they have been taken. So we can see here. Okay, there is a, so there is a unidirectional movement of energy towards the higher trophic levels, and it's a dissipation and a loss as heat to the environment. Okay, that means, okay, the mineral nutrients are killed, but the energy that is present in the plants are transferred to the heterotrophs, or from the autotrophs they are transferred to the heterotrophs through high, okay, trophic levels. From lower trophic level to higher trophic level, the energy is transferred. Okay, and that energy which is transferred is used for its metabolic activities, or it is lost into the atmosphere in the form of temperature or heat. In the form of heat, it is released into the atmosphere. It is not again returned to the autotrophs from the heterotrophs. So the transfer of energy from lower trophic level to higher trophic level is unidirectional. Remember this one very clearly. The transfer of energy, okay, from lower trophic level to higher trophic level is always unidirectional. Only the mineral nutrients are recycled, or in a cyclic manner it is moving, but the energy is never transferred back. Okay, it will be in a unidirectional manner from one trophic level to another trophic level, that is from lower trophic level to higher trophic level. And what happens to the energy? Okay, the sum of the energy is used for its metabolic activities of the organism, and the remaining energy will be released in the form of heat. The remaining energy is released in the form of heat into the environment. That is. Okay, and that is observed in all the ecosystems, whatever the type of ecosystem it might be. The energy, the transfer of energy from a lower trophic level to higher trophic level is always unidirectional in any ecosystem. So, okay, and there are four major components that what we have to study under this ecosystem. That is productivity, and the second one is decomposition, energy flow, and fourth one is nutrient cycling. Okay, these are the four components that we have to study mainly. In that, the first one, productivity. First, we'll discuss about productivity. Okay, that is what is the primary source of energy to all the living organisms that are present on the earth means sun. The radiant energy that is obtained from the sun is the primary source of energy for all the living organisms, okay, which is driving all the living organisms. So a constant input of solar energy is the basic requirement for any ecosystem to function and sustain. That means if any organism has to be in living condition, the sunlight is very, very important to sustain. That means to survive. and to function. That means if it has to remain as a living and to perform certain biological activities. In all that case, what is required means sunlight, the solar energy. So that is the basic requirement for any ecosystem. That's why we can also see wherever the light is available abundantly, there will find more biodiversity. Wherever there is more light availability, there will find more biodiversity. Because if light is available more vegetation will be there. And if more vegetation is there means more animals also will be there. So automatically we'll find more biodiversity. So that is, so a constant input of solar energy is the basic requirement for ecosystem to function and sustain. That means if any ecosystem has to remain undisturbed, and if it has to function, it's okay. If it has to function its role, okay, the constant supply of solar energy is very, very important. So here, what is primary production? Primary production is defined as the amount of biomass or organic matter produced per unit area over a time period by the plants during photosynthesis. Okay, that means if you take a particular period of time, for example, say 1 year, in 1 year, in that ecosystem, how much amount of biomass is produced by the plants? By photosynthesis, that is by trapping the sunlight, by absorbing the sunlight, and by which they perform photosynthesis. And by using this photosynthesis, how much amount of biomass or organic matter is produced per a unit area in a period of time. You say some area. That means if you take 1 square kilometer, we'll take 1 square kilometer area. In that 1 square kilometer area, in a particular period of time, for say 1 year, okay, how much amount of organic matter or biomass is produced by the plants? That one we call it as primary productivity. Okay, it is expressed in the terms of weight or energy. Biomass, if we say biomass means we'll take it as a weight. If we take organic matter means we'll take it as how much energy it can yield. That is how many kilocalories of energy it will give. Okay, the rate of biomass production is called as a productivity, or we can say primary productivity. Okay, it is expressed in terms of grams per grams per year or kilocalories per year. Okay, grams per year or kilocalories per year to compare the productivity of different ecosystems. Okay, in different ecosystems, the productivity will be differed. Why? Because depending upon the light availability. Okay, in tropical regions, we'll find more light availability. And in the temperate regions, we find less availability of light. So depending upon the light, input of the light, the productivity will be changing. So to compare the productivity, okay, we have to calculate this productivity. Where we'll find more productivity to understand that concept. Okay, we are going with this rate of productivity. We are calculating the rate of productivity and we are comparing with the different ecosystems. So it can be divided into gross productivity and net primary, okay, gross primary productivity and net primary productivity. Okay, when you observe this primary productivity is again divided into two. That is a gross primary productivity and the net primary productivity. What is this gross primary productivity and what is this net primary productivity? Gross primary productivity means GPP. Okay, in simple we say it as GPP, gross primary productivity. Net primary productivity means NPP. NPP, that is called net primary productivity. Understand? So when you observe here, what is this gross primary productivity? Okay, the total amount of organic matter or biomass that is produced per a unit area in a period of time, we are calling it as a gross primary productivity. Okay, the total amount of organic matter. How much amount of organic matter? For example, if you say in a 1 square area, 1 square kilometer area for 1 year, for say around okay 200 tons of organic matter is synthesized. 200 tons of organic matter is synthesized. Our biomass is produced. 200 tons of biomass is produced. Okay, that one we'll call it as gross primary productivity. That is, gross primary productivity of an ecosystem is the rate of production of organic matter during photosynthesis. Total amount of organic matter or biomass that is produced per a unit area in a period of time, we can call it as a gross primary productivity. And what is meant by net primary productivity? Okay, when you observe this gross primary productivity, whatever the organic matter or biomass that is produced, whatever the organic matter or biomass that is produced in a plant, in plants per a period of time, all is not stored. All that organic matter is not stored. Okay, some amount of energy will be used for respiration to yield energy to perform activities. So that means some amount of gross primary productivity will be used for a respiration purpose to yield energy to perform certain metabolic activities. So a considerable amount of GPP is utilized by plants in respiration. Okay, so the gross primary productivity minus respiration, okay, whatever the energy that is used for its metabolic activities, okay, by undergoing respiration, that is nothing but that leftover energy, we are calling it as net primary productivity. So gross primary productivity minus respiration losses is the net primary productivity. So NP is equal to GPP minus R. GPP means gross primary productivity. R represents respiration. So NPP, that is a net primary productivity, is equal to gross primary productivity minus respiration. That one, because here some amount of energy is used for its metabolic activities which is derived by the respiration, the energy derived from the respiration. So when you observe here, so in the plants, what is the energy that is made available to the next trophic level? The primary consumers. What is the energy that is made possible means that is nothing but the net primary productivity, because the total gross primary productivity cannot be used by the next trophic level organisms, because some of the gross primary productivity is utilized by the producer itself, So that net primary productivity means the energy which is stored or present in that plant, that one only can be made available to the next trophic level, that is the consumers, which we say it as heterotrophs. You can also simply say that. It may be the herbivores or carnivores or decomposers, anything. So net primary productivity is the available biomass for the consumption. Okay, net primary productivity is the available biomass for the consumption to heterotrophs, that is herbivores and decomposers. So here, that biomass that is transferred, the total biomass that is transferred from producers to the from producers to the consumers, or from plants to the herbivores, that total energy we can call it as a secondary productivity, or we can say, okay, we can use this term like a GSP, that is gross secondary productivity, the total energy. So secondary productivity defined as the rate of formation of new organic matter by consumers. So whatever the energy that is transferred from lower trophic level to higher trophic levels, the total energy which is transferred, that is called as a secondary productivity. We can simply call it gross secondary productivity. And in that gross secondary productivity also, some amount of energy will be used by the consumer for its, okay, for metabolic activities by energy deriving from respiration. Okay, and some amount of energy only stored, which is made available to the next trophic level, that is called as net secondary productivity. So GSP and NSP. NSP, that is a net secondary productivity, is equal to gross secondary productivity minus respiration. What is gross secondary productivity means? The amount of biomass that is transferred from a lower trophic level to higher trophic level, that is from a, okay, autotrophs to heterotrophs. In simple, we can say, or from plants to herbivores, or decomposers also we can say, because the decomposers will act on all the organisms. Understand? So that is that one we are calling it as a secondary productivity. Okay, the second trophic level onwards, whatever the biomass that is present, we commonly call it as secondary productivity. It may be the primary consumer, secondary consumer, or tertiary consumer. Okay, in all the consumers, we commonly call it as net, okay, the secondary productivity only. Okay, the energy that is first transferred, we are calling it as a net secondary, okay, gross secondary productivity, and some will be used for its respiration, and that minus okay, that is the net gross secondary productivity minus respiration, we are calling it as a net secondary productivity. So that is it. So the secondary productivity is defined as the rate of formation of new organic matter by consumers. In any consumer, you can take primary consumer or secondary consumer or tertiary consumer. Whatever it is, we commonly call it as secondary productivity only. That is gross secondary productivity and next secondary productivity. Okay, that is. And next, primary productivity depends on the plant species inhabiting a particular area. Okay. For example, we can take a grassland is there. Okay. Yes, okay. A grassland is there. In that grassland, some around 200 grass plants are present. 200 grass plants. So, for example, if you take 1 acre of land, in that 1 acre of land, for example, there are 200 grass plants are there. Okay, you take another another plant, okay, another area where there is one banyan tree. In that same acre land, one banyan tree is present. Okay, then when you observe here, which plant will be having more biomass when compared to these areas? There is 1 acre of land. There are two different land areas are there. In one land of 1 acre land, in 1 acre land there are 200 grass plants are there, and in another acre land we will find only one banyan tree. A big or a large banyan tree is there, which can have more primary productivity. Obviously banyan tree only. Okay, banyan, even though it is a single, but it is having a more biomass. Okay, the banyan tree will be having more biomass when compared to 200 grass plants in a land area. So that's why we are saying the primary productivity depends upon the plant species inhabiting a particular area. It also depends on a variety of environmental factors. Okay, a large number of, that is the availability of light, availability of water, soil, soil nature, and next predators. All these also will play a very important role in determining the primary productivity of that habitat. So that's what we can see here. So it also depends on the variety of environmental factors, availability of nutrients, that is the nature of the soil, and photosynthetic capacity of plants. If the plant is an efficient photosynthetic or not. Okay, that's what we can say. So therefore, it varies in different types of ecosystems. Okay, it also depends on a variety of environmental factors, availability of nutrients, and photosynthetic capacity of plants. Okay, therefore, it varies in different types of ecosystems. So depending on all these factors, the amount of biomass produced or the primary productivity varies from one ecosystem to another ecosystem. So here we can see the annual net primary productivity of the whole biosphere is approximately 170 billion tons of organic matter. That means in a year, how much amount of primary productivity is going on this earth means, it is around 170 billion tons of organic matter is produced. Of this, despite occupying about 70% of the surface, the productivity of the oceans are only 55 billion tons. Okay, when you observe here, that 70% of the earth is covered by water. but it accounts only 55 million tons only. It accounts only 55 million tons out of 170 million tons. That means even the land cover is only 30%, but it is okay. It is taking part the major component of biomass produced on the earth. That is around 115 billion tons. 115 billion tons are primary productivity is done by the land, even though it is having only 30% cover. But 70% cover, which is done by the ocean, it is not much contribution to the primary productivity. It is only 55 billion tons out of 170 billion. Okay, that is. Okay, what is the reason? That one we'll discuss in the tomorrow class.